The war in Ukraine has erupted, once again shattering any illusions of a swift resolution. The conflict, which has already claimed countless lives and displaced millions, is now spiraling into a new and even more precarious phase. This new phase is marked by a dangerous escalation, threatening to engulf the region in further turmoil and uncertainty. The stakes are higher than ever, and the potential consequences are dire. Just as the conflict seemed locked in stalemate, a grinding war of attrition along entrenched front lines, a sudden shift in strategy has reignited the flames of war. Ukraine launched a massive and audacious drone assault, pushing the boundaries of conventional warfare. This daring operation targeted strategic assets deep inside Russian territory, far beyond the contested border regions. This was not merely a symbolic gesture, it was a direct strike, intended to inflict significant damage. The attack struck at the heart of Russia's military infrastructure, targeting key air bases and logistical hubs. This was a calculated move, a bold departure from the previous pattern of border skirmishes and localized engagements. Moscow, led by President Putin, viewed this as a grave provocation, an unacceptable escalation of the conflict. The response was swift, decisive, and characterized by brutal force, signaling a new level of intensity in the war. The escalation has pushed both nations and the world closer to the precipice of a wider conflict, raising profound questions about the future of European security. We are now venturing into uncharted territory, where the risks are immense and the potential for miscalculation is dangerously high. Ukraine's operation was meticulously planned and strategically targeted, focusing on key Russian air bases that play a critical role in the ongoing conflict. The aim was to cripple the Russian Air Force, to diminish its capacity to conduct further strikes. This Air Force has been responsible for the relentless bombardment that has devastated Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. In retaliation, Russia unleashed its own arsenal, launching a furious barrage of missiles and drones against Ukrainian targets. The strikes pounded cities like Kharkiv, causing widespread destruction and civilian casualties. The tit-for-tat cycle of attacks and counterattacks has intensified, creating a dangerous and unpredictable situation. Each side is now escalating the violence, pushing the conflict to new and alarming heights. This story is about a calculated Ukrainian strike that changed the dynamics of the war. The brutal Russian reaction that followed, escalating the conflict to a new level of intensity, and the devastating human suffering that inevitably follows such escalations. Advanced drone technology is not just a tool of war, it is fundamentally changing the face of modern warfare, blurring the lines between offense and defense. Civilians, as always, are bearing the brunt of this new onslaught, caught in the crossfire of escalating military actions. Peace talks are stalled, with no clear path towards de-escalation or a negotiated settlement. And both sides seem locked in a deadly spiral of violence, with no easy way out. The world watches with growing anxiety as the conflict threatens to spiral out of control, wondering where this dangerous escalation will ultimately lead and what the long-term consequences will be for global stability. The conflict now teeters precariously on the edge of an even more frightening chapter, a chapter that could have far-reaching and devastating consequences for all involved. In June 2025, a pivotal moment unfolded in the ongoing conflict. Ukraine stunned the world, not just with its resilience, but with a display of strategic ingenuity that few anticipated. This was achieved with Operation Spider's Web, a name that hints at the intricate and far-reaching nature of the plan. It was a daring and audacious drone attack, remarkably launched from deep inside Russian territory itself. This wasn't just a border skirmish, it was an incursion into the heartland. The scale of the operation was significant. Over 117 drones simultaneously targeted 4 major Russian air bases, facilities of critical importance to Russia's military capabilities. These strikes reached deep into enemy territory, far beyond the front lines, showcasing a new level of reach and precision. The operation was meticulously planned, a testament to the strategic thinking within the Ukrainian military. The execution involved a complex logistical undertaking. Drone parts were smuggled into Russia over a period of 18 months, a clandestine operation of considerable scale. These components were cleverly hidden in commercial trucks, utilizing specially modified vehicles with remote-controlled roofs to conceal their illicit cargo. Launch teams, operating covertly within Russia, then assembled and deployed the drones, working under immense pressure and risk. This allowed them to bypass the outer layers of Russian air defenses, striking at targets that would otherwise have been considered untouchable. The scale was unprecedented, a demonstration of Ukraine's evolving capabilities and its willingness to take bold risks. It was requiring immense coordination across multiple teams, and a level of courage that underscored the determination of the Ukrainian forces. Ukraine's message was clear, a direct and unambiguous statement of intent. It was "Nowhere in Russia is safe from retaliation," a stark warning that the conflict could reach any corner of the country. The results were devastating, exceeding even the most optimistic projections. Ukraine claimed at least 40 Russian aircraft hit, a significant blow to Russia's air power. This was with US intelligence confirming up to 20 warplanes struck, with at least 10 completely destroyed, a confirmation of the operation's success from an independent source. Even Russian military bloggers, often critical of their own government's handling of the war, admitted to significant losses, a rare glimpse of honesty amidst the fog of war. The damage included nuclear-capable bombers, raising serious concerns about the security of Russia's strategic assets. Moscow officially denied major damage, attempting to downplay the significance of the attack and maintain an image of strength. But satellite images, readily available to international observers, told a different story, revealing the extent of the damage and contradicting Moscow's claims. The attack was both a military and psychological blow, striking at Russia's capabilities and its sense of invulnerability. It was shattering the Kremlin's sense of security, forcing them to reconsider their defensive posture and strategic assumptions. Spider's web proved Ukraine could strike at the heart of Russia's war machine, demonstrating a new level of strategic reach and technological sophistication. It was a propaganda victory, boosting morale in Ukraine and demonstrating new Ukrainian capabilities to the world. The operation exposed vulnerabilities in Russia's defenses, highlighting weaknesses that could be exploited in future attacks. It also sent a message to Ukraine's Western partners, underscoring the importance of continued support and military assistance. It showed, with the right tools, Ukraine can inflict serious damage even against a larger and more powerful adversary. The attack marked a turning point in the conflict, signaling a potential escalation and a shift in the balance of power. The Kremlin's response would be swift and severe, promising a new and dangerous phase in the war. The Spider's web strikes were a strategic game-changer. By destroying bombers and fighter jets, Ukraine directly weakened Russia's ability to attack Ukrainian cities. The strikes boosted Ukrainian morale and shocked the Russian public, exposing the war's reality at home. They revealed major gaps in Russia's air defenses, forcing Moscow to rethink its strategy. The attacks also strengthened Ukraine's case for more Western military support. Ukraine proved it could take the fight to Russia, not just defend. This operation shifted the balance and raised the stakes for both sides. Humiliated by the attack, Putin's regime struck back with overwhelming force. Russia labeled the drone operation terrorism and launched a massive retaliatory assault. Kiev became the primary target, with air defenses working overtime as missiles and drones rained down. Russia claimed to target military sites, but civilian areas suffered most. The response included cruise missiles, hypersonic weapons, and swarms of drones. The goal: punish Ukraine and reassert Russian dominance. The retaliation was not a one-off, but the start of a sustained bombing campaign. Critical infrastructure, especially Ukraine's energy grid, was hit hard. Putin's message was clear: any blow to Russia will be answered tenfold. Kharkiv, near the Russian border, has suffered the worst of Russia's retaliation. After Ukraine's drone strikes, Russia launched its largest drone attack yet on the city. Residents endured a night of terror as explosions rocked neighborhoods. 48 drones, missiles, and bombs targeted residential areas, killing and injuring dozens. Apartment buildings and homes were destroyed, leaving families homeless. Local officials called it open terror. President Zelensky condemned it as pure terrorism. For Kharkiv's people, this is a grim routine. Constant threat, trauma, and impossible choices. Russia's attacks are deliberate, aiming to break Ukrainian will by targeting civilians. The devastation in Kharkiv is a microcosm of Russia's broader strategy. It's a campaign of brute force meant to crush resistance. The war has evolved into a relentless aerial duel. Both sides now use drones and missiles to strike deep behind enemy lines. Ukraine, outgunned in traditional warfare, has embraced drones as an asymmetric weapon. Ukrainian drones have hit oil refineries, factories, and command posts inside Russia. Russia responds with massive barrages, targeting Ukraine's energy grid and cities. Each attack triggers a new round of retaliation, escalating the conflict. Dozens of drones and missiles are launched nightly by both sides. Air defenses intercept many, but some always get through, causing destruction and fear. This cycle of strikes drains resources and makes de-escalation ever more remote. As violence escalates on the ground, With both sides digging in for a protracted conflict, world leaders' words carry immense weight, shaping not only the immediate direction of the conflict, but also the long-term geopolitical landscape. Their statements, pronouncements, and diplomatic maneuvers can either fuel the flames of war or offer a glimmer of hope for de-escalation. Putin remains defiant in his rhetoric, consistently framing Russia's actions as a justified defense of its interests and its people, and vowing overwhelming retaliation for any and all attacks on what Russia considers to be Russian soil, further escalating tensions. Zelensky, meanwhile, continues to plead with Western allies for more advanced air defenses and increased military aid, forcefully arguing that Ukraine's security is inextricably linked to the security of the entire European continent. He accuses Russia of demonstrating no genuine interest in pursuing a peaceful resolution to the conflict, pointing to the relentless attacks on civilian centers and critical infrastructure in cities like Kharkiv as evidence of Russia's true intentions. Even former US President Trump has weighed in on the situation, urging Putin to exercise restraint and avoid excessively harsh retaliation, but also assigning blame to Ukraine's drone strikes, suggesting they have provoked the current escalation. This highlights the existing divisions and complexities within Western policy regarding the conflict. While some firmly back Ukraine's right to strike targets within Russia, viewing it as a legitimate act of self-defense, others express deep-seated fears of an uncontrolled escalation that could potentially spiral into a much wider and more devastating conflict. On the diplomatic front, progress remains stalled, with any meaningful peace talks effectively frozen in place, and even the already limited prisoner exchanges between the two sides reportedly breaking down. Ukraine continues to demand a full and unconditional ceasefire as a prerequisite for any further negotiations, a demand that Russia steadfastly refuses to meet. With no viable diplomatic off-ramp currently in sight, the outcome of the war is increasingly being determined by the relentless deployment of drones and the devastating impact of missile strikes. The increasingly hardened positions adopted by both leaders leave very little hope for any immediate prospect of a peaceful resolution to this devastating conflict. Beneath the headlines, civilians pay the highest price. The escalation means more casualties, families shattered, homes destroyed, lives upended. Kharkiv's recent attack injured a baby and dozens more, each statistic a personal tragedy. Civilian infrastructure, apartments, hospitals, schools, lies in ruins. Rolling blackouts and constant danger make daily life a struggle for survival. Air raid sirens and bomb shelters are now part of everyday life, especially for children. The psychological toll is immense, but so is the resilience of ordinary Ukrainians. Emergency responders and volunteers risk their lives to help survivors. Despite the trauma, people emerge from shelters to rebuild, refusing to be broken. The true cost of escalation is measured in human suffering, not military gains. June 2025 has pushed the war into a perilous new era. Ukraine's bold drone strike showed new capabilities, but provoked devastating retaliation. The cycle of attack and counterattack now drives the conflict, with peace more distant than ever. Both sides are locked in a war of attrition, with civilians suffering most. Diplomacy is stalled, the battlefield decides the future. Ukrainians endure with resilience, hoping for support and an end to the violence. The world hopes for peace, but braces for further escalation. As long as the cycle continues, ordinary people will pay the highest price.